Good afternoon and welcome to the show Horsepower. I'm your host Jeff Goulet, the show where four legs always beats two. This afternoon we have the pleasure of having Leslie Condon with us, local horsewoman, and I call her Wonder Woman. And we could cue up maybe the theme from Wonder Woman for us, because if there's any aspect of this business, Leslie's been involved in it. Right now you are embroiled in the midst of the breeding season, which we have talked off camera, which is just absolutely is a long and tedious process. And before we get involved in that a little bit, though, let's talk a little bit about your background. I know yesterday was Mother's Day. You celebrated with your mom, which I saw some phenomenal pictures of, and I must say your mother and you are a match.
Thank you.
And but you've been involved in horse racing for a long time. Maybe you can expound on what got you initially involved in horse racing and the road that has led you where you are now.
I loved horses from the time I was a little girl, as far as I can remember. I always wanted to be a jockey, but by the time I was 12, I was 5'8", so that dream was over. And now I'm 5'10", so it's definitely over. And so I went into riding show horses and always, wanted to still be in the racehorse business, and started galloping racehorses when I was 14 and working on breeding farms, and then worked my way to the track where I galloped horses and became a trainer pretty early. With my own horses, and built up business through clientele I had at the show horses that supported me moving into the racehorse business.
Wow. So they were predominantly involved in the show side of the things, and then
Yes.
they transitioned into thoroughbred?
They transitioned into thoroughbreds, yeah. And I had owners that were steeplechase trainers and hunter jumper trainers and quarter horse showmen that moved into the thoroughbred industry.
Is there a similarity between those? I mean, is the transition simple to make, or not so much?
Not so much. It's completely different industries, very closed, all industries in the horse business. They really don't parallel each other. So not a simple transition for me to make, but for owners a little different.
Right. Now, you've been here at the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races for how long?
Probably 20 years.
20 years. And you've seen a lot of changes here. Your stable has had some very good years over the last few. We always talk about the one horse that, has meant a lot to both you and I, and you want to expound on Scythe a little bit. He certainly had a very good year last year.
He did. He's been a star for us. He came from a longtime owner, racehorse owner that also did show horses, and he claimed his mother, and we bred his mother and actually sold his mother back to the original owner, which was also a very long-time client of mine, both of which have now passed on. We lost the mare a few years back, and so Scythe was our last foal from her.
Oh.
And he really developed into a nice horse later in life. Has done well for us, winning the Dash for Cash and placing in multiple other stakes, and he's just been what you want to breed for.
Is that, I've talked to other people recently, and that's kind of like their crowning achievement. Like if you can win a race on West Virginia Breeders' Classics night, that's like a huge thing. I mean, was that for you and the connections?
Absolutely. That's why you breed West Virginia breds for that day.
Right.
I mean, that's the pinnacle. That's what you want to do.
Being gunned up the rail, he rushes all the way up into fourth, and Ellie's Little Man unrideable away in seventh. Last year's champion Georgetown Cat is eighth, and the filly Unikoi, and the trailer is Cat Come Home. The field of 10 dashes into the far turn. The quarter in 21 and 3. They fly into the turn, and it's Blue Plaid who's taken over. Blue Plaid is up top by 2. Scythe comes to take him on from second, and Walk to Freedom. Aaron's Tap working his way into the clear. He's coming 3 wide, and Unrideable's going right with him. They're a furlong from home in the Dash for Cash. Blue Plaid turns them in. Here's Scythe and Aaron's Tap. Aaron's Tap trying to come 3 wide after these leaders. Blue Plaid clinging to the lead. Here's Scythe. Aaron's Tap not tonight. Scythe in front, and Scythe will score in the Dash for Cash Breeders' Classic. A jubilant Victor Rodriguez waves his whip in victory.
find yourself an aficionado when it comes to breeding? I mean, do you defer to nicks, true nicks, or how do you go about the pairing of mare and stallion?
We use a lot of different tools, true nicks, work nicks, what's worked in the past. I tend to breed mares that have a good race history and a longevity in their careers and their parents' careers, to try to breed horses that will work in the West Virginia program so that they'll have longevity in their careers and hopefully soundness in the future.
How many horses do you normally keep in your care at the track?
At the track, I have about 16.
And will they predominantly be West Virginia breds?
Predominantly West Virginia breds, all basically owned and raised by their breeders, and just come to me.
And you have some horses you own yourself?
I have quite a few I own myself. We do have some PA breds in the barn and some Maryland breds, but again owned by their breeders.
Right. Are there any particular stallions that you're fond of this year or over the last couple years? Or
obviously, we love Smarty Jones, and he's done very well for us. You know, we have quite a few at Northview, Maryland Stallion Station that we breed to every year in PA.
Okay.
Bulls Bay, just, you know, we like quite a few. Of course, Fiberson's a nice horse, and here in West Virginia. And we stand our own stallion, Weave It To Me, that we're supporting now. So,
could you talk a little bit about Weave It To Me? Because I see some of the advertisements, but not a horse that I'm that familiar with, unfortunately.
He's a stallion by Bernardini out of the Good Mare Spun Out of Control. He is a brother to Fed Biz, who stands in Kentucky, who covered 189 mares last year.
Wow.
His second dam produced Pulpit, and his third dam produced Johannesburg. His dam is a sister to the Tail of the Cat. And so his complete dam line is a sire line. And also on the other side with Bernardini, nothing but a sire line that produces good sires. He's 16-3 and a big good mover. Does everything right and nicks very well.
Are you getting a lot of interest to him this year? Or?
We're getting quite a few mares. It's a tougher year. It'll be his third year.
Okay.
But now it's really picking up late in the season this year. We're getting quite a few covers.
You know, we're talking a little bit about breeding right now, and I know you, as well as your veterinarian, you know, are very instrumental in what goes on at the farm. I mean, we talked just off the camera for a second about, you know, one of your recent episodes where you literally, you know, had gone to bed at 2 or 3 in the morning, and that's after getting up at 5 or 5-ish probably. So, I mean, this time of year, I mean, can you just talk a little bit about the breeding season? Because I don't think people really understand the...
It's a 24-hour-a-day job. I have all of my cameras, all my stalls are cambered, and some of my pens and paddocks are cambered. So they're uplinked to my phone, my computer, and my iPad. And it's with me nonstop 24/7 for about 5 months, so we can watch these mares throughout the night and day wherever I'm at. Most nights I don't sleep. You know, the alarm's set for every 15 minutes, so you don't go to sleep. And it makes it tough training too, but you just cannot leave them alone. And I'm basically a horsey midwife.
Yeah, for those people that are tuning in on the show, I mean, all you see is the glory of standing in the winner's circle. They don't realize how much effort it took to get there.
The hours, the effort it takes to get there. I mean, just to get the mare pregnant and then to get the mare to carry her foal for 11 months and to get the foal out on the ground alive, and then to keep him that way and healthy before he ever even gets to the racetrack.
Now, Weave It To Me, does he have 2-year-olds on the ground right now?
Weave It To Me has 3 2-year-olds from a test crop. We did not get Weave It To Me till late in June. So he has 3 2-year-olds, 2 of which are being broke. The 2 colts are currently being broken.
Oh, and you like them?
I like them. Big, rangy type colts, cover a lot of ground, seem to be good-minded.
Good. So it's not a job that you would recommend like for everybody. I mean, you love what you do, but I mean, the time and the effort, and I mean, you know, we appreciate everything you do, because not only are you involved with the horses in your care, but even once they leave your care, you're very, very responsible as to where they go.
Absolutely. It's not a job I would recommend for anybody. It is not a job for the faint at heart, and I would honestly discourage anybody that wants to do it.
Wow.
Though we do get a lot of girls coming out to the farm and everything, and we train them right along, but it's not something that I would encourage people to do.
You know, you just mentioned about the tapping into the phone and the internet and all. Is that something that's relatively new in the business?
It's relatively new, and it's a game changer.
Wow.
I mean, because we can actually, you know, go and sit in a tack room and watch these mares on these TVs, and I can watch them in my car. And, you know, I can go over to the races and still be watching the mares, even though we'll have a foaling attendant present in the barn, I can still watch.
So instead of Weave It To Me, it's like Weave It To Technology.
Exactly. Exactly.
So do you, like right now, what would be a typical day in the life of Leslie Condon?
Well, obviously we start early in the morning, so we don't go to bed. And I'm at the farm all night. or I'm watching the monitors all night. Foaling mares, taking care of them. You know, you roll out of bed at the farm and you turn all your mares out and feed everybody, and then you head straight to the track and do some morning work, and then usually back and forth between the farm and the track 4 or 5 times before lunchtime. And then back after lunchtime at the farm all afternoon.
God forbid if you have a couple horses in.
Yeah, it's really tough. We're at the farm till 6:30 every night, and then head straight back to the track to run for the night. And then head home, take a shower, change clothes, and back to the farm.
Now, and you're still in the height of the breeding season, or is it starting to slow down a little bit?
Normally we would be slowing down, but it seems like this year all the mares have been late, and we have to go with Mother Nature. So right now we're really busy rebreeding mares. We only have 6 to foal left for our farm, but we're really still quite busy.
Is there any logical that you can say that it's the weather or nothing? It's just that
whether it's the weather, whether it's Mother Nature pushing us back into later months, I really don't know. We try to force these babies to be Januaries and Februaries, and
right.
It just hasn't been working out well the last few years. We seem to be getting moved further back.
Huh. Well, Mother Nature can be a cruel mistress, as we all know here.
Absolutely.
And it just seems like rain has been inundated with us lately. How many horses now you say at the track? About 16?
About 16 at the track.
And you're there pretty much every day. I notice
Every day.
I get a lot of complaints like the cost of feed and hay and straw has just been astronomical this year.
The cost of feed, hay, straw, we are in a crisis for straw shortages.
Wow.
I'm driving myself 3 hours to Pennsylvania to pick up loads of straw now because we absolutely have none here. The hay crisis right alongside the straw crisis because we were inundated with rain last year and they couldn't make it, and unfortunately we are headed down the same road this year.
And in all the spare time you have, which obviously is so much, you still also are on the board of directors of the HBPA, which
yes.
If people don't understand, that's the Horsemen's Benevolent and Protection Association. So can you tell us a little bit about what your function would be there?
Yeah, the board of directors, what they do is they represent the horsemen at the racetrack, not the racetrack. We represent racing and trying to keep the horsemen healthy and what they need in racing and trying to keep racing healthy and all our monies together. And we have board meetings, obviously, and we do a lot of political jockeying and meetings and stuff to keep everybody on the same page.
Now, we obviously know how busy you are, and we had the opportunity to talk to a couple of women recently, and it seems to me like horse racing, women gravitate towards it, and it's the love of the horses, I guess, because it sounds like the hours are just beyond taxing.
They're grueling, and yes, the love of the horses for the women in the business. And unfortunately, it's probably the toughest sport played outdoors, and the women are considered the underdog, so it's always a fight, to the top. And it's tough to be a woman in this business on the racetrack, but it seems us women are the ones that make the farms go round.
Now, where does the future hold for you?
Well, I like the breeding business. I've been in it a long time now, and I certainly like racing here. I'm assuming the future will hold the same as it has been.
Okay.
Whether it's here or in another state, I'm not sure yet. But yeah, it's been a long run here. So.
Well, you've set up roots here.
You've set up
they're
roots
well established.
Here
You certainly are well respected.
A lot of work here. We put a lot of work into it. So we're.
I know you are considered a valuable member of the HBPA.
Oh, thank you.
Very much so.
That's good to hear.
And I'm very happy to have you here today. And I know your time constraints, you're probably on the road again. So we want to thank Leslie Condon for coming out today and appreciate everything she's done for the local industry, especially in the aftercare, because I know how much that means to you.
Oh, absolutely. All the horses we breed and raise, whether they're sold or claimed into racing homes, can always come home. We have stickers on their registration papers and always tell people these horses, no matter when it is, where it is, or what kind of condition there is, call me, they can always come home. We rehome all of our horses that can be into show hunter careers or show jumper careers. We have one that's a master in Maryland right now, a master's horse. We have several on the A circuit showing. We have several horses that have gone on to eventing and pretty 2- and 3-star careers.
Outstanding.
And we try to keep track of them all, but sometimes we don't. And like I said, anybody that calls me later, they can come home.
Outstanding. Horsewoman extraordinary, Leslie Condon, thank you for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
I used to work with Carrie more full-time. Now I have my own farm in Maryland, so I'm here a few times a week. And I help get on the thoroughbreds right after they come off the track and assess them. sometimes I show them to potential buyers and look at potential horses that she's thinking about getting, stuff like that. And then I also come by with my horse. He came from Charlestown. We got him, I guess it was like 6 years ago. We got him from Charlestown, and I didn't buy him right away. I wasn't actually looking for like a personal project, but he and I we just sort of clicked, and he was tough. He was a lot, but so it's been a long journey. But Carrie's been very, very helpful and supportive, and it's been worth it. I think you have to sort of, well, it's hard to find somebody to sort of, in the hunter-jumper world, to sort of take them that seriously, and especially him. He's not big. He doesn't move terribly well. And then also just when they come off the track, you know, they've been broke and trained to run a certain way and use their bodies a certain way. So as you redevelop them into a jumping horse, it's just totally transforming their muscle memory. And so even if you can teach them something, you know, to hold their body a certain way, their bodies can't do it right away for that long. So it takes a lot of patience. And they always tend to want to rely on speed at the end of the day rather than, you know, technical, correct stuff. So sometimes you have to sort of train them. You don't always go step by step. Sometimes you skip steps and come back to them when they're ready. And you kind of have to listen to them a lot. Yeah, exactly. The mechanics, and then sort of the type of fitness, like strength versus cardio kind of stuff. You know, a lot of the racehorses, they have speed, like quick, like fast twitch muscles, and they're good cardio, but they don't necessarily have like strength and stamina in their muscles. So, and that's where some of the warm bloods in the show jumping ring have an advantage. So, and it takes a long time to build that up for them, you know. But I think when you do, I think you get a better jumper. I mean, I know a lot of my trainer, he's he's a little older. So I guess, I don't know, like 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, thoroughbreds were much more common in the hunters and jumpers than they are now. And a lot of the older trainers love the thoroughbreds. And he always says if you can get a thoroughbred, when you get a thoroughbred that jumps well, nothing can beat it. And so it's fun to work with him, who really believes that my horse can compete with the other horses, even though he's not nearly as big and definitely not bred for it or built for it. He tries hard enough to make up for all of that.
When I was 6 years old, I contracted polio, and that was before the Salt vaccine came out. And so we were in quarantine. All the polio victims were at Hialeah Hospital in Florida. And back then, they had all the iron lungs in one section, and all the people that had polio, you know, it contracted all the muscles behind your legs so that your legs curled up. So I'd have to lay there in bed, and they'd have my feet tied to a wall every day, and I had to stay like that unless I was in therapy. So a lot of the therapy was to do swimming. Well, I would sink because my legs weren't strong enough. So I always wanted to ride, and I'd lay there in bed and pretend I was riding. So then they said, well, if that's what she can do, let's see if we can get her into riding lessons. My family did not have a lot of money, so I thought, well, I got polio for a reason so that I could start riding horses because I loved them. I was always competitive, always. As soon as I got out and I started riding, it was just like I was a natural. I loved it. It was just, it was like my dream to ride. Well, as I started growing up, I was little, so whenever I would ride, they would have match races, and they would let me ride the match races because I was little and I could hang on and ride the races, and then they would have jockeys come and ride some of the horses. Well, nobody would bet on me because I was a little girl. And so they would win more money on me. And a couple of the jocks got mad at the other jocks that raced against me and said, "You shouldn't have let her win." I go, "We couldn't stop her." Well, I think watching the show National Velvet, when I saw that movie, that's really what got me like, I'm going to be a jockey. And I'd say that to people as I was growing up, and they're like, "You can't be a jockey." And I go, "Why not?" You know, why not? I said, "She did it." And they go, "But that was a movie." I said, "It doesn't matter. You know, movies are real life."
So that's really what
That's what got me started, yeah.
I want to be a famous rider. I should like to hunt, ride to hounds. I should like to race.
Velvet's horse was called the Pie. The Pie was wild and unpredictable, but he was lightning fast.
Could the Pie win the Grand National?
Velvet Brown, who do you think you are?
I'm the owner of the Pie.
And does that give you leave to go poking your head out amongst the stars, believing you could take the richest, grandest prize a horse ever won?
A Grand National. Large dream for a little girl.
Sometimes it frightens me. I see things. I see things as big as life and think they're real.
Up you go.
Nothing to be frightened about. Just like the hedge at East Meadow.
Wait, there's a horse coming up on the far side. He's coming up fast. I can't quite see who it is. It's number 28. 28, it's the Pie.
MGM's National Velvet, the exciting story of a girl, a horse, and a dream, in color.
No, it's just we all wanted to ride, and we couldn't see why we could not ride, because women are very competitive in any of the equine sports. You know, and they beat men all the time, and we're like, you know, it's silly that we can't ride races. It was sort of a whirlwind, because I wanted to just stay at the track and ride. I didn't want to have to go do all of the TV shows and the radio shows and some of the parades and the appearances. I really didn't want to do it, but I was under contract, and my boss said, "No, you have to go do it or you don't ride." Because back then, the contract holder had the final word on everything. Well, I would have liked to have ridden and stayed at one track and, you know, moved on to the next track, you know, and be able to just ride full circuits. But with all the newness about it, you know, I actually had to go do presentations, and I had to do shows, and, you know, there was a lot to do that really hurt my weight and stuff, because you can't stay on your regular diet, you know, you can't stay training, you have to be very fit to be a jockey. And sometimes I'd have to leave for 2 or 3 days, and people would want to name me on a horse, and they never knew whether I was going to be there or not. So that was sort of tough. Every day, and I ride every day. No, I compete too, but it's in dressage, and I break and train horses. I try not to ride any more bucking horses, because I'm going to be 70 this year, so I try to ride, you know, I'll finish them, and I'm trying not to start any from the beginning now. You know, I'm like, I don't like to hit the ground so much anymore. Oh. I think it was always, the favorite thing was breaking from the gate. It was like just so quiet, and then like when that click would start and the horse's ears would go, and there was just that excitement, there was stillness, and then when they'd break from the gate, that was just the most exciting thing that I've ever done. And it still is. Because we rode the Legends race for 5 years at Pimlico, and so they brought all of us out of retirement to do that. And it had been 40 years since I rode a race, and I was just elated. It was like, oh, I get to do it again. So it was wonderful.
It's the late nights. It's the early mornings. It's the dedication. The hours of training that led to the winner's circle. We are the Horsemen. 80 years. 4 generations. A West Virginia legacy. O'Sullivan Farms is a proud sponsor of Horsepower. Valley Equine Associates is a proud sponsor of Horsepower. With over 50 years of experience, Valley Equine provides exceptional service in equine medicine and surgery. Valley Equine Associates, where your horse's health and well-being are our top priority. Breeding, training, racing. A stable of champions, Taylor Mountain Farm is a proud supporter of Horsepower. It's a West Virginia classic, the Golf Tournament, the Gala, and the state's top thoroughbreds vying for the chance to be named West Virginia's best. The West Virginia Breeders' Classics.